John Ulzheimer is known as one of our nation's most recognized credit experts. Having worked for 28 years in the credit industry, John has become one of the most prolific speakers about credit and the go-to authority on answers to credit-related questions. Credit Countdown with John Ulzheimer.
Hello, my name is John Ulzheimer. I am a consumer credit expert. I have almost 30 years of experience in the credit industry. I've spent time at FICO, which is the company behind the FICO scoring system, and Equifax, which is one of the 3 recognized credit reporting agencies in the United States. So today I'm going to talk about zombie debt. Sounds kind of scary, right? Zombie debt. What is zombie debt? Right. So in order to explain what zombie debt is, first we have to go through kind of the life cycle of debt that you take out with a creditor, take it into default, and then actually talk about what happens to it once it goes into default, because that's where you start running into issues like zombie debt. All right, you borrow money from a bank or take out a credit card and use it, and you don't pay them back. You go into some form of default with your original creditor. That's the OC, the original creditor. The original creditor is going to do one of a variety of things. They're going to either outsource the collection activity to a debt collector, which most people just call a collection agency, or they're going to sell the debt. And to sell the debt, they would sell it to an organization called a debt buyer. If they just outsource it to a debt collector, the debt collector is going to credit report it, they're going to call you, they're going to send you letters. Eventually, if you actually owe it, pay it or settle it. And once you do that, then you will essentially eliminate any sort of relationship you have with the debt collector, and you're really going to eliminate any relationship you have with the original creditor, because they're now either paid in full or you've settled the debt and everybody has moved on with their life. If the debt is sold to a debt buyer, however, then the debt buyer technically becomes your new creditor. Even though you never applied for credit with them, because they bought the debt from the original creditor, they are in fact your new creditor. They are either going to outsource it to a collection agency, or they are going to sue you to collect the debt. One way or the other, you actually now owe them the amount of money that you owed your original creditor, probably with additional fees associated with it or interest at this point. The new creditor can credit report it, or they can sue you. Challenge that you run into here is now what happens. So let's talk about a couple things. Let's talk about credit reporting, and let's talk about suing people to collect debts. The credit reporting period of time or statute of limitations that this debt can be reported is 7 years, period. It cannot be any longer than 7 years no matter what. It doesn't matter if you make a payment, it doesn't matter if it gets sold again and again and again and it gets sent to collection agents, it doesn't matter, 7 years. 7 years from the date of the first delinquency that led to the default with the original creditor. That's the law, period. However, it doesn't mean that you still don't owe the debt. Even though it's not on your credit report, that doesn't mean that you don't owe it. And this debt buyer is going to want their money. So the debt buyer can, in fact, sue you, even if the debt is still on the credit report. The debt buyer can sue you unless the debt is what's called time barred. And time barred is a legal term that simply means, in this context anyways, that the creditor, whoever it happens to be, cannot sue you to collect the debt because it has been time barred. If it's less than 7 years, they can absolutely still credit report it. They can still attempt to call you. They can still send you letters. They can still do all of those things, but the one thing that they cannot do is file a lawsuit against you to collect it. Whether or not a debt is time barred is going to depend on what state you live in. In some states, it's not uniform across the country. In some states, it's as little as a few years that it becomes time barred. It could actually still be on your credit report and it be time barred at the same time. There are some states where it doesn't become time barred until well after a decade. So whoever the creditor is at that time can still sue you even if it's not even on your credit report any longer. So again, this really doesn't have anything to do with credit reporting. It has to do with whether or not the debt has become time barred. So when does debt become zombie debt? Well, here's the issue with zombie debt. Time barred debt, again, they can't sue you to collect it, except if you make a payment on the debt or you commit to make a payment. In some scenarios, those actions will change it from being time barred debt to not time barred debt, which means that they can now sue you to collect the rest of it. So if you're going to pay off your debt and you know that it's time barred debt, it's actually a really good, first off, I'm an advocate of paying what you owe. If you've borrowed money, you should pay it back. regardless of who the creditor is, it's, that's the right thing to do. That's what you promised to do when you took out your loan or credit card with the original creditor. You promised to pay it back. So pay it back. It's the right thing to do. If you're going to pay back time-barred debt, don't just pay back a tiny amount of it, because if you pay back a tiny amount of it, the creditor may sue you to collect the rest of it because now it's no longer time-barred. If you're going to pay it back, either pay back all of it or settle it. Whatever you do, it's called exhausting the debt. Pay back enough of it so that whoever the creditor happens to be at that time agrees that this is it. This is all I'm going to get. This is all I want from you. Get it in writing. It's called settled in full. Again, that doesn't show up on your credit report because if it's older than 7 years, it can't. But you're also settling this debt or paying off this debt, even though it's technically zombie debt, but you're not allowing the creditor to sue you, even though they can at this point, because you've essentially exhausted the remaining amount of the debt. So if you have any questions about zombie debt, please drop them in the comment section below and I'll do my best to get to them. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.
For more videos and credit tips from John Ulzheimer, go to www.tradelinesupply.com.